Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kennedy Lay, and thank you for tuning in this morning or whenever, because you might be watching this at another time. But thank you for tuning in at the Posture Perfect workshop presentation by myself and hosted by Pinnacle Health Group. And I'm so excited to be here to present to you about why posture is so important. We're going to have a look at what different types of things that you can do at your home office or your actual office when this COVID crisis is all passed through. And I'm going to give you some practical tips and tricks on how to improve your posture from a physio like myself, but I'll introduce myself properly when I bring up the slides. But welcome and thank you for joining me, whether you are live or whether you're watching this recording on Zoom. So let me just bring up the recording. Oh, sorry, let me just bring up the presentation. All right, so this morning's presentation is on the perfect posture. What is it and how do I get it? This is among the top 3 questions I get in the clinic as a physio, because our industry and our lifestyle has just changed so rapidly over so many years, over the last 50 to 200 years. And I'm really excited to share my knowledge and my experience with all my clients with various different musculoskeletal pain and what posture related things and strategies that we can do to help address that. So welcome. A bit about myself. I am a physio by background. I'm also very exercise enthusiast, and I do exercise most days of the week. As you can see, I climb Mount Kilimanjaro, I surf, I ski, and I think upkeeping of a physical activity lifestyle is so paramount to our everyday life. As we can see, most, in our society, most diseases that's actually exponentially growing, and that's because of our lifestyle, of our sedentary lifestyle these days, that perhaps technology has shifted us into. Who are we? So Pinnacle Health Group, we're a leading expert and leading group in physio and occupational health services in Melbourne and Sydney CBD. We're growing nationally and we have presence inside ANZ, the Docklands head office, Westpac in Sydney, 120 Collins Street, and also Docklands Clinic in Melbourne as well. So we almost have 2 different arms. One is serving big corporate organizations. The other is we serve normal clients just like a suburban physio clinic would do. We also offer physio, podiatry, dietetics, psychology, and all aspects of allied health. So we make it a one-stop shop for every one of our beloved clients. And one thing I just want to share is our company vision, and that's to inspire and create healthy changes in every individual and hence and subsequently workplaces as well, because we believe that's so important to have a healthy lifestyle within every one of us. So what we're going to go through today, we're going to go through a bit of history of the posture and why our workplace is emerging into a more posture focused or a posture fixing culture and society. We're going to look at what the research is out there. Why is it a problem? What do we or us commonly do when we sit down at our desk for too long? We're going to look at anatomy, so the body and our spine and how gravity actually pushes us down. We're going to work out what's wrong or what's right with your posture, with your ergonomic setup at your home or at your office. We're going to go through some practical tips on workstation and your body checkpoints. And most practically of them all, what can we do about it? And also lastly, going to give you some exercises for the perfect posture that you can do at your desk. And then we'll go from there. So there's been a huge shift over the last 50 to 200 years from a labor force, from the industrial revolution to the now technological revolution, where we used to, we might used to work in the factories, or we'll have quite labor intensive jobs. However, now technology has evolved to a point where it's replacing a lot of those labor forces. Now it's forcing us to be in front of the screen, which hence subsequently puts another problem. When you solve one problem, you put another problem in the works, where you're on the computer all day and you're sitting all day. As you can see from the mammal monkey days to, this picture really highlights the significance of how we've evolved and then almost regressed in a human society and in a human evolution style. Also, from an active to sedentary lifestyle at work, not only that, so that might be 8 to 10 hours a week, but also we're transitioning from a active to a sedentary lifestyle outside of work. When you think, my parents or our generation, or whatever generation you might be in, we play on the streets after we get home from school. I would remember making cardboard boxes, cars, and then driving them, pretending to drive them along. But you look at the kids these days, they're glued to their computers, iPads, PS4, Xbox, whatever you have it. And also our hobbies has turned into a bit of a sedentary behavior as well. So I suppose the revolution of our posture has evolved from an active lifestyle to quite a sedentary lifestyle. A bit of a recent research, sitting is the new smoking. 85% of us don't get enough exercise, and there's an increase in sedentary behavior. And that leads to all comorbidities, which I'll highlight in the next slide, which is here. So long periods of sitting increases the risk of obesity, type 2 diabetes. So just to make note, type 1 is the genetic one. Type 2 is you can acquire it at any point in your life. Cancer, so different types of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and poor mental health. That's a huge focus in our society and government right now. Is long periods of sitting can actually cause depression, anxiety, and stress. And it also shortens the lifespan. So if you sit more than 11 hours a day, it actually decreases your lifespan by 40%. And between 8 and 11 hours a day, there's a 15% reduction, which is huge. Like if you can live till 100, which is, it's probably a little bit more than the Western society average at the moment, you take 40% away, that's 60. You take 40 years away. It's ridiculous. Also, poor posture can contribute to developing various musculoskeletal disorders, which we see and I see all the time in the clinic. Computer users have up to 50% chance increased risk of musculoskeletal disorders. That can include anywhere from neck, shoulders, wrists, thumbs. I've seen trigger fingers, elbow, tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, lower back pain. Probably over 50% of our patients demographic have lower back pain. Probably not so much in the lower limbs, but hips and backs, hips up. We see a lot of conditions about that. So sitting is really the new smoking from a musculoskeletal. So breaking it down from muscle and skeleton, which is bone. So musculoskeletal. So where do we fit in, I suppose? Probably chances are you're sitting at your desk when you're watching this recording. And which type of I think this comic really illustrates how important our posture, or how crazy some people's postures are. But you'll be surprised how often you find yourself or you find your colleagues in these positions. So where do I fit in? What is posture all about? It's about our bone, it's about our discs, it's about our joint, muscles, and nervous system. And we're going to break through that one by one and talk about the effect it has on different musculoskeletal structures and how sitting can actually be detrimental to it. Let's look at our spine. So our spine runs all the way from our head all the way down to our bottom. And there's different layers from deep to superficial. Our spine consists of different nerves which runs through, called the nervous system. Bones, obviously, so the bones construct of our spine. The disc it sits on top of each other all the way down our spine, and there's joints in between all those discs and muscles around it, providing a musculature or a scaffold around the spine, and they all work in synergy all together. Let's have a look at our bone first. They're a skeletal structure. They're a rigid structure to our backs, and they always have a constant gravity pushing down against us, obviously, because we live on Earth. If you lived in space, you have a different issue where you actually don't have enough bone density. But because of gravity, we actually have an innate bone density because of the body weight gravity we exert on ourselves. But as you can see, as we age, and if we don't do enough strengthening exercises around our back or our spine actually compresses. That's why when you're older, you get shorter. That's a very clear explanation, or a very simple explanation to give. Breaking down, we've got also these intervertebral discs, which make up different areas of the spine. So you've got our cervical spine, which is up our neck. You've got our thoracic spine, mid back, and you've got our lumbar spine, which is our lower back. And these discs sit on top of each other. They act as shock absorbers of the spine. They actually really like that springy sensation. They actually like shock absorbing. You can think about it as the bicycle shock absorbers on your bike, and they actually work better if you put shock through them. And as you can imagine, if you're sitting for 11 hours a day, they're not used as shock absorbers. You need to go for things like walking. You need to be running. You need to be jumping like our ancestors. They hunt for a living, they jump for a living, and now we've evolutionized to a different place where we're not doing all those things. And they're designed to take load. Healthy load is actually really good for our spine and disc. So you've probably seen out there, weight training or resistance training is actually really good. It's the biggest myth that weight training actually compresses your spine. I know we talked about before that sedentary posture sitting compresses our spine because there's no load going through it. But I want you to think about the spine as a spring. So the more load you put on, you're actually strengthening the bone, and they actually like that load. So joints in between the discs, there are these joints. And so they form the spine in what we talked about before: 7 cervical spine or vertebrae, 12 thoracic vertebrae, and 5 lumbar vertebrae. There's 24 in total. I like to think about it as the times you have your meals. So you might have your breakfast is 7, your lunch at 12, and a bit of an early dinner at 5 o'clock. So they're protective casing for our nervous system, which are our nerves, and they innervate down from our brain all the way to our little toes. Musculature. So musculature is a simple way of muscles, and they control our position and our posture, and that's the most important aspect of the structure or the scaffold. And this is where we have complete control over, because we don't necessarily have control over our skeletal structure. It's not like we can change how tall you are, but we can change the muscle around it. It gives us stability and control. So this diagram right here is a really good representation of what's a stable musculature, what's a neutral stability, and an unstable, musculature from a balance ball perspective. And I'll expand on that later, why musculature is so important. 2 major factors in our posture: workstation setup and postural setup. So when you're a guest, you need to be always thinking about that. We're going to summarize the workstation setup into 5 key points. Number 1, feet must be on the ground. It must be flat on the ground, and you can't have your feet dangling like this, because what this does is actually increases the force down from your hips. It actually drags your pelvis into a different position. It actually rotates it forward, putting a little bit more stress on your lower back. But if you have your feet firmly grounded on the ground, it actually takes away some of that support, hanging, leveraging, whatever you want to call it, from your chair. Number two, your hips must be higher than your knees. What that means is that your knees should be below your hips when you're sitting. If you're not doing that, raise your hips. Simply because if you have your knees above your hips are getting into this crunchy or this shortened position. Again, if your hips are in this constant hip flexion, it increases the tightness around your hip flexors, which are the muscles at the front of your hips here. And what that does, it actually pulls your pelvis into this position. Again, putting a little bit more strain on your lower back here. So definitely make sure your hips is higher than your knees. Like this guy. Backrest is slightly reclined. So ideally between 95 to 110 degrees. So if you think about 90 degrees is here. So just a little bit back. You can't see my backrest here, but ideally between, that 15 to 20 degrees back from our neutral position. Small of back to seat it fully at the base of the chair. If not, you can consider a cushion at the bottom of your base of your spine. It's very comfortable as well. And if not, is your chair the right fit or the right size for you? Number four, keep mouse close to keyboard. Don't reach for your, I've got my mouse here. Don't reach for your keyboard. Just keep about a 90-degree bend in that elbow. And keep your back up against a chair for that support. You don't want to be reaching for your mouse, because the moment you reach for your mouse, as you can see here, my shoulder protracts. So it rotates anteriorly, and it's not great for that muscle. Like the shoulder joint is not designed to work in this position. It's designed to work here. So if you bring your mouse back a little bit, that'll make it a little bit better. Avoid too much reaching and keep back straight against the chair for support, not like this guy. He is the classic example of what you shouldn't do. Have a look at that. So that knee above the hips, have a look at what his lower back's doing. And your main screen at eye and arm level. So if you reach out in front of you in your arm, your screen should be just there. You can touch it right there. And your eye level should be 1/3 at the top of the screen. If you can't have that, pop your laptop or computer on a book, on a couple of books. Then you can get in that posture. Okay. And you shouldn't be overstraining to read the screen or work as well. So, and my optometrist actually warned me on this. And she said the completely same thing is 1/3 eye level to 1/3 top of screen. Summarized: feet on the floor, knees below hips, backrest, pop a cushion in the lumbar spine or your lower back, mouse, keyboard, not overreaching, and also screen with eye level 1/3, top 1/3 of the screen. Postural checkpoints. We're going to have a look at posture. 4 key areas of posture. I want you to think about the 20% rule for all, because we don't want you to be really rigid. We don't want you to have the perfect posture. Your back and your neck is in, your back is nice and squeezed. That's not a healthy posture either. We want you to be comfortable. We're going to look at head, shoulder, hips, and tummy. Head position. So what we want you to do is, a lot of people have this chin tuck posture. As you can see, it actually increases the load in my thoracic spine here. So what we want you to do is actually chin tuck in make a double chin, and then come off at 20%. So make that double chin first, and then come off that 20%, and that position is perfect. Shoulder blade position, I'll just pinch those shoulder blades together and then ease off 20%. This is a really good exercise to do anyway, just because naturally we all fall in a flexion position. So what that looks like is we all fall here. We're all bunching forward. We're all coming together forward. So we don't do enough extension-based exercise or extension-based pattern. That's why we're trying to increase that activity. So squeeze your shoulder blades down and back. Hips and pelvis, we're going to do this together. So what I want you to do is imagine it's your pelvis or your hip bones on either side is a water bucket. And I want you to tilt the water bucket forward so that the water comes out the front. And I want you to tilt it back so the water comes out the back. Okay? So I want you to go into that extreme forward tilting, tilt all the water out the front, and then I want you to tilt all the water back out the back, and I want you to find that middle ground. This is a really good exercise for your spine. It actually helps lubricate your hips and pelvis, and it actually minimizes lower back pain as well. One of the most common exercises we give is this exercise. Tummy and stomach contraction. Our tummy, our core stability. You probably have heard words and terms thrown around in terms of core stability or core strength. Important to keep the belly button strong so that it holds our skeleton in place, what we talked about before. So what I want you to do is we're going to do this together. We're going to draw your belly button in and mildly tense your core, but without holding your breath. So you should still be able to talk. This might take a little while to get used to, and then ease off 20%. So it's a really good core activation exercise to get those inner muscles working at the same time. What else can we do? Regular exercises, both at desk and away from work. Before work actually helps with muscle tolerance during the day and actually gives you a burst of energy. I think it might sound a little bit counterintuitive, but exercise actually releases stress hormones like cortisol. So it actually makes you more energetic during the day. Regular stretching breaks at work also increases posture endurance. The best 4 exercises, we've done 2 of them already. We're going to go through them, these you should be doing every 30 to 45 minutes. And all these stretches, 5 reps, so 5 times, have a break, and then do that 3 sets. Top 4 desk exercise, chin tuck. What we said before, just gently tuck your chin in, do that 5 times, and then do that 5 times, have a rest, and then do that twice over more. So 3 sets of 5. Double chin, this is really good for activating those internal muscles that hold your neck up rather than being here. Pelvis rolling, what we talked about before, rolling the pelvis up and down or forward and backwards. Really good to lubricate the spine and actually get rid of that lower back pain by actually increasing movements around the spine. Pec stretching, again, what we talked about before was we often see that shoulder rolling forward into that flexion position. So 2 things you can do. You can pop your arm behind in a wall and you feel this nice stretch through your chest, or you can pop both arms behind just in an open position. This is enough for some people. And the other one is same thing as before, you're using something to hold against. You're using a pivot point to stretch your chest. And lastly, I want you to sit on your right hand, relax that right shoulder off, and I want you to pull your head down to the left armpit, and you'll feel this amazing stretch through that right side. Really, really, really nice stretch to do at your desk. Anything else? Regular exercise. In summary, regular exercise, regular breaks at work, 30 to 60 minutes if you're doing sedentary work. Minimize your portable device usage like your phone, iPad, laptops, etc. If you're in bed at night, try to read a book read a physical book before bed, rather than having those light stimulation in your eyes. That'll decrease quality of sleep. And using external support when required, like we talked about, that footrest, that cushion behind your back as well. Regular stretching breaks at work. So every half an hour to 45 minutes, you should be doing those stretches that we talked about before. Set reminders in your phone. Make sure you change position. The best posture is the next posture. So if you can move 5 minutes will be great. But if you can move every half an hour, that'll be great. If you are experiencing any pain, please come into one of our clinics, get some physio treatment, get some advice on how you can set up ergonomically best, get a massage. Clinical Pilates is really, really good from a core strength perspective. A lot of our clients love it because they see the benefit out of strengthening. And if you're not keen on a clinical Pilates or a group exercise session, we can always offer you a personalized home exercise program that you can do at home. Workstation assessments, really, really critical and crucial and beneficial. And also standing desk, a recently up and coming phenomenon, which is actually great for if you have access to it, because it actually changes up your posture. Thank you. Please get in touch. Email me at kennedy@pinnaclehealthgroup.com.au if you have any questions. Please connect with me on LinkedIn and Instagram. If you have Instagram, give me a follow and I'll follow you back. Any questions, please feel free to drop them here. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Thanks, guys.